Okay, now let's talking about the variables. Okay, we finished talking about data, right? Different kind of data, and then we learned we have time series data, cross-section data. We have sample data, population data. We can have structured data, unstructured data. We also have big data or not big data, right? Now we're looking at the variables. So what is variable? So a variable is a characteristic of interest that differs in kind or degree among various observations records. So the most how you distinguish data from variables. So data is just existing there, right? So it's just anything we see, we hear, we saw, they are all data. When we start talking about the variables, it's still a data, but this data is used to characterize of interest. So it's a characteristic of interest. So for instance, like I said, when I using this example before about the hair color of people in Erie. So if I'm curious about, okay, what is everybody's hair color? So it become my interest. So then when I collect the data about people's hair color, that become a variable. Okay, so the hair color always exists. It's the data you can see everywhere. But when it becomes something I'm interested, I can start to name in that called the hair color of people in Erie. So that become my variable. So generally speaking, we have two type of variable, categorical and numerical. So the numerical also called qualitative, uh, sorry, categorical and numeric. So categorical can also call qualitative, and the numerical can also call it quantitative. Depends on who you talk to, right? So the one thing I want to call out is in the statistics world, there's so many terms, they are interchangeable. So as you go through this formal education, it's very important for you to learn those terminologies to know whether they are equivalent or not. Here is one thing I want to call out. Categorical equivalent to qualitative, numerical equivalent to quantitative. Okay, so and down the road, if you hear somebody call categorical, you know, oh, that means qualitative. When somebody say qualitative, you know that's categorical. When somebody say numerical, you know that means quantitative. Somebody say quantitative, they mean numerical. Okay, so let's think about categorical. So that representing categories. So usually that kind of variable, when you look at their values, they are labels or named to identify distinguishing characteristics. So like I just mentioned about people's hair color, brown, blonde, black, brown. So those are labels, right? So therefore that is considered as a categorical variable. So algorithmic operations on the labels variable are not meaningful. What does that mean? That means if you blue plus brown mean nothing. So plus, minus, division, multiplication mean nothing to categorical variable. So you cannot do any of that. So the coded into number for data processing. So in order to analyze in the category data, except the later on we learn what you call the bar chart, pie chart. Even that we need to somehow converting those categorical variables value into some kind of numerical values. So therefore, we need to learn how to code into numbers. Okay, so for the numerical, which is also quantitative variables that representing meaningful numbers. So for instance, if you try to understand each person how old they are, so 1 year old, 2 year old, 18, 20. So that's considered as a numerical quantitative data, people's age. So arithmetic operation are meaningful because you can add them together, right? So you can see what is the average age of people in Erie. What you did is you adding everybody's age together and divide by the number of the population, right? So that kind of operation become meaningful. Plus, minus, division, multiplication will be able to apply to the quantitative variables. Okay, so there were like a two kind of quantitative variable, discrete and continuous. So discrete quantitative variable is assume a countable number of the values, such as how many children in your family, and then how many bottle of water you drink. So that is considered as a discrete, right? So a countable number of the values, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, etc. So for the continual variable, continual quantitative variable is assume an uncountable number of value within an intervals. So for instance, how much money you have in your wallet. You can say $2, $2.3, $2.223. So it can be any real values. So in that situation, that variable is considered as a continual quantitative variable or continual numerical variables. Okay, now recap. Here we focusing on different kind of variables. So first, you are able to distinguish whether it's a categorical or numerical variable, right? And under the numerical variable, you need to be able to identify whether they are discrete or continual numerical variables. Okay, so in my next video, we're going to talk about 4 scales of measurement.